Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon and welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here on this Thursday, the 15th of April, 2021. You guys know what? I, I learned something last night. I worked out a laws of probability mathematical formula for Bitcoin, and I learned something, you know? If we look at the laws of probability of Bitcoin's success, now if Bitcoin is successful 100%, in this law of probability, it will become the money of the world. No other money. It'll destroy all other money. And, what we would see if that were to happen is we would see the amount of Bitcoin being moved across the internet diminish considerably. And the price to transfer Bitcoin across the internet would be exceedingly high. Because, you'd have people out there, if Bitcoin becomes the money of the world, that means it's absorbed all the value of everything. The cars, the houses, the businesses. The whole world is running on Bitcoin. Now you say, Glenn, how come the transaction volume would fall off if the world is running on Bitcoin? Now, let me explain to you why that would happen. As Bitcoin becomes more and more exceedingly valuable, it wouldn't be used for transactions. It would be used as a store of value, like gold is used now. And even Fed Chairman Powell, I was listening to him, and he was talking about Bitcoin and its role in the financial system. And he mentioned the word gold in conjunction with Bitcoin, gold, Bitcoin. I think he said like gold. At any rate, that's where it's moved. It's moved there awful fast, right? Now, what do they do with gold? Real gold, physical gold. It's heavy. You guys know how heavy a bar of gold is? It sits in vaults, doesn't move. It acts as an underlying financial stability behind the world's financial system. That's its job. Bitcoin is taking that job away. And if Bitcoin gets to 100% success of what it's trying to do, it's going to become the only money out there because Bitcoin is different than gold. Bitcoin can be moved quickly and easily. So you're saying to yourself now, if Bitcoin's not moving around, it's sitting in accounts as a store of value, how are people going to pay for things? That's when Bitcoin's going to be moved. And people are going to pay for things with the altcoins, the alternative coins. Now, I'm only talking theoretically. If this actually happens, where Bitcoin becomes the money, the real powerhouse of money, and the altcoins, they would become the exchange of value. In other words, they would take the position of these fiat currencies now. That's what the altcoins would do. And so what a person that was wealthy would do is they would hold some Bitcoin. Say they had 10% of one Bitcoin, a wealthy individual, right? What they would do is they would take maybe a half of 1% and move it and buy altcoins and then use the altcoins to pay for their groceries and pay for everything and their car bills. But they'd only move that Bitcoin once, maybe once in a year, to pay for everything in their life for the whole year. And it'd be only a little tiny chunk of what. That's how valuable Bitcoin would become. Measured in value, if Bitcoin is successful at moving to 100% of what I'm talking about here, 1/100th of a Bitcoin would live you your whole life. Just 1/100th of one Bitcoin. If Bitcoin is successful at doing what it wants to do. And people will be working a whole day for one Satoshi. One measly little Satoshi. And this is why I say that mining would become incorporated. Mining Bitcoin would become incorporated. And what I mean by that, corporations would take it over. and it would be all the average citizen probably wouldn't even be allowed to mine a Bitcoin at that point. It would be all a corporate thing, big corporate thing. Mining would become, and so that's what if Bitcoin becomes where it's trying to go in the financial system. That's what it would become. But can it get there? Well, let's look at this chart. I drew this chart for you guys, and what we notice here is, picture in your mind a laser beam. A guy's got a laser, and he's got it aimed at a target a mile away, and the target is a black balloon. Okay? Pulls the laser, and it fires. The laser fires off, and the laser's headed toward the black balloon. Well, the target, to hit the target, it has to make it all the way there. If somebody 100 feet from the black balloon holds up a mirror, well, the laser will hit the mirror and it won't make the target. But as you move along toward the target, you're increasing the probability of success. The further you move along toward that target, the higher the probability for success. And so picture this is like the laser beam, and Bitcoin is moving toward the 100% target. Bitcoin has made it 93% of the way there since its infancy. Since it started, it was worth nothing, and it was worth a nickel. And now it's worth what? Over $60,000. It has succeeded. It's like the laser beam, targeting the target, and it succeeded in making it 93% of the way there right now. So it's already done 93% of becoming the only money in the world. It's already made it 93% of the way, according to the law of probability. So it's only got 7% left to go to hit that target. And if Bitcoin hits that target, Bitcoin's going to be the only money. Everything else will be like gold and silver will still have their position. It'll still be worth a lot of Bitcoin. Gold will be worth a lot of Bitcoin. Your house will be worth, what your house is worth in Bitcoin. Everything will be priced in Bitcoin in the whole world if Bitcoin can get to that target. Only 7% away. Now, what's the next hurdle it's got to get to and get over in order to get to that 100% target? The next hurdle for Bitcoin is becoming too big to fail. That's the next hurdle. And that's going to move it 4% further toward the target. It's going to move up to 97% if it becomes too big to fail. And when it becomes too big to fail, the central banks in the earth are going to have limited options regarding Bitcoin at that point. If they try to take Bitcoin down, they're going to have to make a decision at that point about cryptos. If they try to take Bitcoin down at that point, when it becomes too big to fail, it'll take down the rest of the financial system. Bitcoin's moving toward that point rather rapidly right now, the too big to fail point, which would be the 97%. Money talks in this world. The bigger Bitcoin gets and the more amount of money it gets behind it, the louder it's talking, and the central banks can't ignore that. We're coming to a crossroads position here, probably when Bitcoin gets around $3 or $4 trillion industry, where the financial system out there couldn't take the shock if it were to deflate at a certain point. Like, I think that Rubicon would probably be somewhere over 3 trillion, definitely over 3 trillion for the whole industry, and probably somewhere between 4 and 6 trillion before it would become too big to fail. Well, the central banks would know when it becomes too big to fail, and then they got limited options. They can't take it down any longer without crashing the financial system. But if they leave it going, running, it's going to absorb the financial system. So they have limited options available to them at that point in time. Why they've let it get as big as it is right now, I don't know. But the thing is it's getting monstrously large. And so in the next 90 days or so, if Bitcoin continues its march upwards, it could start to cross this Rubicon into the too big to fail category. So at that point, it'd be 97% of the way to its target, to its goal, where it's trying to go. And if it makes it to 97%, and it's moving in that direction rather quickly, what's going to stand in its way to stop it then from making it to 100%? And, I'm going to tell you something about all this. Once it really starts to happen, it's a snowball effect. It runs on greed. Nobody wants to get left behind. And at a certain point, they'll all start ditching their fiat currencies and buying into crypto. Big time. And a transfer will start to happen. Bitcoin could act as a trigger to run the world's fiat currencies into a hyperinflation. Because what happens when they buy Bitcoin? Think about it for a minute. Okay, they got their money stored in the bank. Maybe perhaps they're rich. Like Tesla bought in. They got their money stored in the bank, and that money's sitting there, and it's got a velocity of 0 because it's sitting in the bank. It's like it doesn't exist. When they pull that money out of the bank and they transfer it over to buy the cryptocurrency, they didn't buy that cryptocurrency to use the cryptocurrency for a means of exchange. They bought it as a store of value and a speculative investment. Okay? So the crypto's not going to move. They just bought it. It's going to sit there just like the dollars were sitting there before. But what happens to all those dollars? Suddenly they just poured all those dollars into the system that we're sitting, not moving. Now gosh knows what they're doing or what they're buying with those dollars. So what happens then is it starts to chase goods and services. Well, price of goods and services goes up. Right? That devalues the dollar. But what about the Bitcoin they bought? Well, the Bitcoins go up in value because they purchased them. Now there's less. So you got one currency that's deflating, the Bitcoin. It's deflating. And you got the other currency that's inflating. One's a nemesis of the other. Bitcoin is the nemesis of the currency that's inflating. And this process can be repeated millions of times over extremely quickly in today's modern world. And Bitcoin could pass a point where it's the point of no return, where it could start to absorb everything. And it's almost like people are in disbelief. Can this really be happening? Can Bitcoin really be $60,000 each? And then they'll be more amazed when it's $100,000 each. And then they're even more amazed when it's $150,000 each. And then when they're $200,000 each, they're like, I'm going to buy some. Because it's going to go to $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. And I know when I was telling you guys about how people will work all day for one Satoshi if Bitcoin gets to this 100% mark where it's taken over. But, this is the world. And things like this do happen sometimes. Especially when you get greed driving it. And I don't see the greed leaving or anything. Yes, Bitcoin might go through one more fluctuation where it drops off in price. But it's not going to drop back down to $2,000 or $3,000 anymore. It might drop back to 10% or something, like some sort of a correction, but then look out when it comes back. This thing is like nothing we've ever seen before. And so I've learned that you cannot plot Bitcoin like you plot other commodities and stuff. You can't. And there's no upper limit to the price of this thing. This thing is like, it's a gobbler. It'll gobble up the whole world. It's like a cancer. A very malignant cancer. And where does it draw the line? Because the bigger it grows, the more success it has, and success breeds more success. And people see that, and they all start to want to hop in. Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.